Hi friends, I'm Yamini Sharma and I welcome you back to my channel The Saffron Box. First of all, I would like to wish all of you a very happy and prosperous year of 2022. May this year take away all your woes, all your worries and keep you in the best of spirits, keep you in the best of health and give you lots of joyous moments with your family, with your loved ones and help you in succeeding towards your goals, achieving your goals. So keep in mind that your goals are good. You are doing something for your society as well. You are doing something for your loved ones, for your near and dear ones, and you are keeping an attitude of gratitude. That is something which is very important for all of us. And each year, as it is passing by, I think we should be grateful with whatever we have achieved, whatever we have learned in the year gone by. So with this, I'll begin my video, and this video I'm talking about how this year is going to progress for all the 12 signs, all the 12 ascendants. So let me just give you a snapshot of how this year is going to make us change our focus, make us change our priorities as we go on further in this year. This year also sees major transits. Rahu and Ketu changing signs, Rahu going to Libra, Aries, Ketu going to Libra. Saturn is moving on to the next sign of Aquarius. Jupiter has recently changed signs. It's moved on from Capricorn to Aquarius. So a lot of changes are going to be happening in a span of 6 months. Some changes have happened and others are going to follow. So in this video, I'm just going to cover as to how these changes are going to look for each and every sign, each and every rising sign, right? So let's begin with the sign of Aries. If your rising sign is Aries, your ascendant is Aries, this year there are going to be changes. We are going to see Saturn moving into your 11th house. We are going to see Rahu and Ketu changing axis. Rahu comes to your ascendant, Ketu comes to the 7th house. Jupiter is already in your 11th house. But as we begin this year, we see a conjunction of Mars and Ketu in your 8th house. So Mars, being the ascendant lord, is in the 8th house. And we see a conjunction of Saturn and Mercury in the 10th house as well. So in a snapshot, as you step into this year, you will see a lot of focus on inheritance matters, on matters which are hidden, which were not your focus point till now. And now they come to the forefront. Now you have to deal with these matters. So there could be inheritance issues, there could be insurance matters which you deal with. There could be some decisions regarding your spouse's money which you have to take now. You might have to manage their money, manage their wealth as of now. Some of you might also be facing some health issues, especially in the lower part of the body, or any issues which were there for a long time, chronic health issues. So this year, as we step into this year, these are the focus points which you'll see, especially with the Lagnesh being here in the 8th house. As we further progress on to this year, with all these transits happening over the year, we are going to see a lot of good chances with regards to educational opportunities coming up. So those of you who are in that age and stage where you are upgrading your education, where you're wanting to go out to study, etc., this year will see a lot of your focus here and some opportunities might also arise. Health wise, as I mentioned, you have to keep a check. Those of you who are in a salaried job, so you're working somewhere, you're working in a large organization as such, this year will see a lot of opportunities coming up. Jupiter is in the 11th, in the house of gains, which is again a good place for it to be. Saturn will also gradually, as the year progresses, by the middle of the year, you will see the effects of the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction also in the 11th house. So slowly and gradually, a lot of your hard work, your efforts which you have been putting in the months gone by will start bearing results. So for that, you have to wait out for the first 2 quarters. And then by the second half of the year, you see the rewards shaping up as well. Rahu and Ketu are going to come into your 1st and 7th axis, which is something I would like to bring your attention to. Rahu coming into the ascendant will actually make you focus a lot on yourself, give you a boost in your confidence levels, etc. But at the same point in time, this will also be a situation, or it will create situations where you'll need to actually focus a lot on your marriage, focus a lot on your relationships. So especially those of you who are married, or especially those of you who have any issues in the marriage, I would say that this is going to be a little challenging, where you'll have to learn how to focus on yourself as well as your spouse. So the challenge is going to be balancing this energy between you and your spouse in your marriage. Otherwise, if I see overall the year seems to be good, you need to take care of your health first of all, your relationships, but money wise, education wise, or opportunity wise, this year seems to be pretty fine for the Aries ascendant, for the Aries rising sign. One thing which I would like to caution you about is your speech, how you're going to communicate at work, and in fact in your relationships, is something which you'll have to keep a check on, right? So that is something which you, if you manage well, will hold you in good stead in this coming year. Then we move on to the next sign of Taurus. So for Taurus ascendant or Taurus rising sign, if you see, this year begins with Venus, that is the ascendant lord, being in the 8th house, the same as Aries. So Venus is in the 8th house, conjunct with Sun, that is your 4th lord, which again shows some health disturbances, focus on health issues as such, especially any hidden issues, something which was not diagnosed till now, which you need to pay attention to. So begin this year with proper checks on your health. And as we go ahead, we see the transit of Saturn from your 9th house. Saturn, remember, is your yoga karak also. Saturn moves from your 9th house to your 10th house. We see Rahu moving out of your ascendant to the 12th, Ketu moving out of your 7th house into the 6th house. So a lot of changes here again with respect to your ascendant, with respect to your 1st and 7th house as well. So here I would like to say that with the as the year goes by, you will see changes in the way you conduct your business, changes in the way you use your career opportunities. So some of you would focus on changing, maybe adopting new ways of doing work, new ways of doing business, bifurcating your business, bifurcating your investments, etc. A lot of good opportunities might also come up with regard to sale and purchase of land, sale and purchase of vehicles, etc. as well. So those of you who have any business connected to these fields will see an eventful year as such. This year, especially with the Saturn, your yoga karaka coming into your 10th house, you see a big change in yourself as well. So a lot of, I would say, maturity seeping in, some mature actions, or you start seeing the world through a different lens. You start seeing the world a little differently, or I would say, in other words, a little more in a more matured manner as such. So that is the kind of change you will see in this coming year. A lot of you would like to focus on your marriage as such. That is something which I would also advise you about as well. There'll be a lot of focus on your creative talents as well. So now when I talk about creativity, is not only for those people who are working in creative fields. They will definitely see some changes here. They will definitely see, especially in the first quarter of the year, you will see a lot of focus on your creative energy. You learn how to express yourself more creatively. But at the same point in time, anybody, all of us are doing some work or the other. Some of you are self-employed, some of you are working in some other organization as such as an employee. But when I talk about your creative talent, I see you bringing out, using out of the box thinking, creating more opportunities for yourself by thinking differently. So that is what I'm hinting at, I'm talking about. So use this creative energy, use your out of the box thinking in creating different solutions for yourself, creating more opportunities for yourself. That is the key for Taurus ascendant as such. A lot of you would also like to indulge in loans, or would like to take up more loans, step up your loans, etc. Now, that is something which I would advise you against. So, financially, in terms of loans or any other problems, any other issues if you're facing, I would say that please stay away from loans, stay away from any kind of a debt which you're getting into. Some of you would get tempted towards some speculation also. That is again something which I would advise you against, right? So uh, focus on your career, focus on your work goals, stay away from any kind of a conflict, opposition, or stepping up of loans or getting into debt kind of situations. So that was about the Taurus ascendant. Moving on to the next sign, that is Gemini. For Gemini, if you see, this year begins with Mercury being conjunct with Saturn again in your 8th house. So Mercury Saturn conjunction is there to see. This year also sees your Bhagyesh coming into your Bhagyasthan, that is Saturn coming into the 9th house, getting conjunct with Jupiter. We also see Rahu coming into the 11th house of gains, Ketu coming into the 5th house. So these transits are going to create a lot of energy towards your gains, towards your ambitions as such. So what are you focusing on? How do you materialize your desires, your ambitions, is something which you'll be focusing a lot, a lot of time and attention to this year. But as we begin this year, I would say that you need to pay attention to any matters which require your attention, any old matters, any matters which require a legal resolution, which require some medical help. So something which you had been ignoring for a long time, you've got to deal with these issues in the beginning of the year, so that you can actually utilize the energies, the new transits, the energies created by the new transits as the year goes by. So as the year goes by, you see a lot of involvement in your social circles. You engage a lot with people outside. You expand your social circle. But at the same point in time, there'll be challenges, or you could see that there are situations which you find tough to deal with your children as such. Managing your children could be a challenge, or getting in sync with them, getting aligned with what is their thought process, or it's at times there could be some situations which put you in conflict with your children. So they could be grown up children, or they could be smaller children who require a lot of your time and attention. So those kind of situations might crop up, and you'll need to deal with these issues. At the same point in time, keep your eyes on the material gains which are going to come through. You will need to work there as well. Saturn coming into the 9th house, Saturn being your Bhagyesh as well, coming into the 9th house, its own house, could also create a lot of opportunities for you in terms of your education or your career goals as well. So overall, if I see, this year is going to bring in a lot of opportunities in terms of your education. You want to upgrade your education, you want to go abroad for your education, a lot of opportunities come up. Career wise, some opportunities could also come up. Those of you who are employed, self-employed as such, or you have your own business, or you work in a partnership, etc., you could also see a lot of changes there, a lot of action, a lot of new work coming in with regard to your business as such. But on the family front, I would say, take care of your relationship with your children. If you have younger children, do definitely give them more time and attention this year. And post April, post May rather, once we kind of move towards the second half of the year of 2022, gear up for more work, gear up for more opportunities to be utilized by you. So that was about the Gemini ascendant. Moving on to the next ascendant or the next rising sign of Cancer. See, for Cancer, if we see, we begin this year with the Lord of Cancer, Moon, being in the 5th house, conjunct with Mars. So the very onset or the very beginning of this year gives a lot of focus on your creative energy, gives a lot of focus on your children. But at the same point in time, you need to avoid any kind of impulsive decisions which you make. So some of you would be tempted to, get into a lot of speculation or get into something very impulsively. It could be a money matter, it could be a relationship also. So that is something which I would advise you against. And there's a need to take balanced decisions as well. Now here again, as we progress through the year for the Cancer ascendant, you will see Rahu coming into your 10th house, Ketu coming into your 4th house. Saturn will move out of your 7th house, move into your 8th house, get conjunct with Jupiter also. So all these energies give you situations where you need to handle your relationships properly. There could be conflicts with your father or your elder father-like figures as well, with some elder teacher, with a guru-like figure. So you need to pay attention that you don't get into any kind of a conflict over there. Your father's health, or your father could demand attention in some way or the other. So it could be in terms of health, or it could be in any which way. You have to give your time, give your attention to your father as such. So that is something which I see for the Cancer ascendant. There would be a lot of focus on the professional side, on the career side, on the outer world as such, right? So Rahu's energy after the month of March, April or May onwards, we can take it as the second half of the year. You see a lot of your time and attention going to the outer world, going towards your profession. But the catch is to manage your family life, to manage your domestic front pretty well. Only then will you be able to do well outside. So wherever this Rahu Ketu axis comes up, especially if it's the Kendra Bhavas, in your case, the 4th and 10th axis, that is where you need to, balance a lot. So use your, innovative thinking, use your creative thinking, and balance up your domestic as well as your work front. That is something which you'll have to keep, your eye on as we go through this year. There could also be some foreign connections which work, right? So some foreign connections which have some connection with your work, with your business, could also come into the picture, and you might gain from them as well. So Rahu, stepping into the 10th house, Rahu brings that touch of foreign element over here. And as I see, the 8th house, the 10th house are going to be a lot, active for you, for the Cancer ascendant. A lot of foreign connections can actually work in your favor this year. But that again depends on what kind of a dasha or what kind of antardasha are you undergoing. So the transits deliver what has already been promised. So whatever has been promised earlier in your birth chart, in your dashas, is something which you have to see in the first place. Then we move on to the next sign of Leo. So for Leo, you see, we begin this year with Sun being in the 5th house, being conjunct with Venus, and Sun moves on to the sign of Capricorn, that is the 6th house, on the 14th of Jan, and gets conjunct with Saturn. And further on, it moves on to the next, next month, it moves on to the next sign of Aquarius as well. So Sun moving its way through the 5th house to the 6th and 7th here, and getting conjunct with Saturn also. This creates situations of conflict sometimes. So conflicts with regard to your relationship especially, or conflicts with regard to your father, etc. So that is something which you have to keep in mind. Otherwise, if I see this energy for you, There is a lot of creative energy which you come up with. There's a lot of creative thinking which you do. There could be situations where those of you who are in some creative fields, you form some new partnerships, form new collaborations with other people outside. So that is something which you've got to utilize this year, especially in the first quarter of the year. And as regards the Sun Saturn conjunction, as we move on, these kind of especially in the first 2 months, some kind of conflicts, as I mentioned, with regard to your marriage or with regard to your relationship with your father also, these kind of conflicts can come up, and you need to be a little prepared as well. Especially, for the Leo ascendant, whenever we see this kind of conjunction happening with Saturn, and now Saturn will also be stepping into the 7th house, aspecting your Lagna. You really need to work on your marriage. This year, marriage is going to be something which you'll have to pay a lot of focus on. Those of you who are planning to get married, who have an alliance waiting, or you're looking at a green signal from your parents or from your family to go ahead with an alliance which you already have in mind, you'll also see some progress. You'll also see some traction there. So focus a lot on your marriage, focus on your relationships as such. That is something which is going to be a challenge for you as such. We begin this year anyways with Mars and Ketu conjunction in the 4th house, which could actually create some disturbances on the home front. So that is something again which you need to tackle. So while the work front will be all right, as such, I don't see any major ups and downs there. But the relationship angles have to be examined and have to be cared for properly as well. They could be, as we go through the year, as we see the transits happening, there could be a lot of focus on traveling outside, on forging connections outside. Those of you who want to pursue higher education outside could also see some progress happening there, or things moving in your favor as such. A lot of long-term journeys, long journeys is something which a lot of you will undertake as well. At the same point in time, this is also a time, especially in the second half of the year, where you should pay attention to your relationship with your siblings. Right? So how is your connection with your siblings? How is your connection with your childhood friends? You'll have to pay attention over there. So in a snapshot for the Leo ascendant, while work opportunities, education opportunities are all right as such, relationships is something which you really have to focus on and work on. So my advice would be to keep your communication open with everybody around you, because this year, especially with Ketu coming into the sign of Libra. Libra is the sign of relationships as such. You will need to focus a lot on relationships. That is something which will be your focus in this year as such. Then we move on to the next sign of Virgo. So for Virgo, if you see, we begin this year with Mercury, the Lagnesh, being conjunct with Saturn in the 5th house. A lot of focus on children, a lot of focus on studies, on your your creative energy, how you're managing things around you, your managing ability as such. So a lot of focus there, and you do well there. Mercury is conjunct with Saturn, the lord of the 5th house over there. So a lot of activity, mental activities also, which I see for you. So you get to plan a lot, you get to plan ahead. And for this, you need to be a little open-minded. You need to be a little, accepting, receptive of others' ideas. That is something which you'll have to keep in mind. Health-wise, there could be some challenges as Mercury further progresses on to the 6th house and moves on to its sign of debility also. So we see that health-wise, there could be some challenges in terms of, digestion issues or stomach issues, which you'll need to be careful about. So keep in mind that your diet is good, your food intake is in order, you are not indulging unnecessarily. That is something which you'll have to see. Mars and Ketu have this conjunction in the 3rd house. That is something which I really takes my attention when it comes to Virgo ascendant. So you need to take care of your relationship with your younger siblings, with your childhood friends, with your neighbors. That is something which you'll have to manage. That is where you could be facing some challenges as well. Then a lot of focus, as we move ahead in this year, Rahu will be coming to your 8th house in the sign of Aries, and Ketu goes to the second. So a lot of focus will be there with regards to money matters, inheritance matters, and you need to be prepared over there. See how you're going to manage your wealth, your partner's wealth. This is also a time where you should not get into speculation, where you should not get into lending money to others, or investing in sources which are not as stable as you would like them to be. So avoid any kind of impulsive expenditure, as well as any impulsive financial ventures as well. That is something which you'll have to see. Otherwise, this year seems to be good. Health has to be seen. Money matters, you'll have to focus a lot on. But otherwise, if you see the educational opportunities or your relationship with children, etc., it seems to be pretty good. Those of you who are planning progeny, who are planning conception this year, could also see some traction there, could also see some something happening with medical aid in case you are in that stage as such. So there I see some movement happening in the with regard to your children, etc. Work-wise also, this year, for those who are going to be who are working in some organization, who are employed by others, seems to be pretty okay, right? So moving on to the next sign of Libra. For Libra, if you see, the year begins with Venus being conjunct with Sun. Sun is the lord of the 11th house of gains, of profits as such. So Sun is conjunct with Venus. The beginning of the year makes you focus a lot on your material gains, on what you actually desire. What do you want to achieve materially, right? So you make efforts, because this conjunction is also happening in the 3rd house. You make that efforts to, move towards your goals, move towards your material goals as such. But this year sees other important transits also. We see Ketu coming to your ascendant. We see Rahu coming to your 7th house. Saturn is a yoga karaka for you. It's the 4th house, moves to the 5th house, where it gets conjunct with Jupiter. So here, overall, if we see this year going by, for the Libra sign, for the Libra ascendant, I would say this year is going to be there to focus a lot on relationships, especially with your spouse. So if you're married, the Rahu energy in the 7th house, Ketu in the 1st, is going to make you focus a lot on your marriage, focus a lot on your spouse. If you're in a partnership business also, you need to focus a lot on what your partner is saying. So make sure that no ideological clashes are happening. Some of you might already be facing some kind of an emotional drift from your spouse as such in your marriage also. So there is a need to fix the gap. There is a need to actually be receptive towards what your partner wants to say, or what he or she wants to do as such. So you'll need to work a lot on your marriage. Keep the communication lines open in your marriage, in your partnerships, because that is where we see the partnerships also from. So 7th house deals with your spouse, with your partner, life partner, business partner, all partnerships, etc., all relationships as such. So keep your mind open and deal with your relationships very, very receptively, right? This year, as we see, as the year progresses, we see Saturn moving to your 5th house, getting conjunct with Jupiter. A lot of you will focus a lot on your children, their growth, and this will bring in some good news from your children, from your progeny. Those of you who are planning a child, planning conception, will also see some good news coming up. And overall, your relationship with your children is something which is a major focus point this year. Then those of you who are in some kind of a creative field, will also see some kind of step up happening. So you see your your creative energies getting utilized well. You see people recognizing your creative talents as such. So that is something which you'll need to focus on this year. Those in the field of education as such will see a good time definitely. If you're dealing with children's education, if you're dealing in counseling or some kind of a teaching field you are in, you instruct something, you share your knowledge with others, this will be a very satisfying year for you as such, right? So overall seems to be a good year as such, but you'll need to focus a lot on relationships, focus a lot on your marriage in this year of 2022. Then I move on to the next sign of Scorpio. So for Scorpio, if your rising sign is Scorpio, ascendant is Scorpio as such, we begin this year with the Mars and Ketu conjunction. Mars is the lord of Scorpio in its own house, in the first house, conjunct with Ketu. Then we have Mercury and Saturn in your third house. Saturn is going to move to your fourth house as well as the year goes by. And Rahu and Ketu leave the first and seventh axis, move to the sixth and 12th axis. So Rahu moves to the sixth house and Ketu moves to the 12th house. Now, what does all this bring for you as we see the year of 2022? We see that there could be gains, or there could be some important milestone moments with your mother, right? Saturn is coming to your fourth. So there could be something very, very important in relationships, in your relationship with your mother. You could be gaining from your mother. You could be gaining from her advice or, some assets, etc. You could be actually talking out with your mother, etc. Then there could also be chances where you deal with a lot of property matters. So this year could actually see some sale and purchase of landed property for you, right? So some of you might already be thinking of, kind of realigning your assets, realigning your immovable assets. So that is something which you'll focus a lot on this year. Lot of your own efforts will actually put you in gainful situations. So what I mean to say is, whatever you have been putting in till now will now bear fruits. So if you had been patiently waiting in the wings for your efforts, for your hard work to bear fruit, I think this year now you slowly and gradually step into some gains happening, right? So lot of foreign connections is also what I see coming for you this year. Foreign opportunities in terms of work, in terms of studies, etc. as well. I would say a more stable relationship with your work is what I see for you. So when it comes to your profession, when it comes to your career, you feel more settled in, you feel more stabilized at work. So overall, this year brings in good opportunities in terms of work, stabilizes you wherever you are. If you had been feeling uneasy, or you had been kind of getting ideas of moving your switching jobs, making some changes in your career field, I think now this year you kind of feel settled wherever you are. That is something which I see for you. But the focus will be a lot on property matters, on home matters as such, on domestic matters as such, right? Do take care of your health, especially any kind of communicable disease, any kind of infections. So maintain proper hygiene, maintain proper basic health hygiene to ensure that you don't catch any ongoing infections. So it could be anything, it could be any bacterial infection, it could be any ongoing diseases as we see, like dengue or malaria. These kind of diseases is something which you have to protect yourself from. Then we move on to the next sign of Sagittarius. So if your rising sign is Sagittarius, if your ascendant is Sagittarius, this year begins on a good note for you. You have the 11th Lord Venus in the ascendant. You have the 9th Lord Sun. Sun is your Bhagyakarak. Sun is the Lord of your fortune, Lord of your luck in the ascendant. So this year begins with a good note. You feel positive. There's a positive energy about you. A lot of you will actually stand to gain from whatever social circle which you have right now. So your network, your professional circle, your social circle this year plays a very, very important role for you. As the year goes by, we see Saturn coming out of your second house into the third, which is again a good transit for you. The Lagnesh Jupiter is anyways in the third house. So this year you could take up a lot of new initiatives. You decide on what you want to do. You try to firm up your goal and try to move towards your goal. As the year progresses, we also see a change in the Rahu and Ketu axis. Rahu comes to your 5th house and Ketu goes to your 11th house. So you focus a lot on your creative energy. You want to do something new. You want to express new ideas, bring them onto the world. You want to focus a lot on your children as such. This year, a lot of you will actually pay a lot of attention to what your children are doing. Where are they going? How are they faring? But at the same point in time, you would also be, you would pay a lot of attention on what you want to learn, what your children are doing, pay a lot of attention on your intrinsic desires as such. But the Ketu energy in the 11th house would also create some disturbance, keep pulling you towards it, keep pulling you towards the outside world, towards the material desires, towards your house of gains also. So sometimes you will feel this pull between what you want to do internally, what actually makes you happy, versus what is actually, what are you supposed to do actually materially. So how are you going to make gains for yourself? How are you going to realize your profits as such? So that this energy is something which you'll have to balance up. Do you want to spend time yourself, maybe reading a good book, listening to some music, doing things, painting, pursuing some hobby, etc.? Or you want to go out, mingle with the world and see how your social connect is, how is the business environment as such? So this kind of push and pull is what you'll see with the Rahu Ketu energy in the 5th and 11th. And the good part is though that Saturn coming to your third house will actually make you make a lot of efforts towards whatever you desire. So the challenge for you, Sagittarius, is as such to decide what you want to do. Make your goal and work towards it. So a lot of new ideas, new initiatives is what I see for you, but there'll be a challenge on what to focus on. So learn to focus on what you want is something which you'll have to keep in mind for this year of 2022. Then we move on to the next sign of Capricorn. So for Capricorn, with the beginning of the year, we see Saturn, the ascendant lord, the lord of the sign of Capricorn in the first house itself, conjunct with Mercury. We have Jupiter in the second house. And then as the year progresses, Saturn moves to the second house to its sign of Aquarius. And then we have Rahu energies also shifting up. Rahu comes to the 4th house and Ketu comes to the 10th house. Again, your Kendra houses are getting affected again with the Rahu Ketu shift. So here I would say, though it's a good start with Saturn being in the Lagna and further progressing on to its own house for you, but a lot of focus will be there between the home and the professional front. So you'll need to give ample time towards the work front, towards the family front as well, towards the domestic front as well. So this is something which you'll have to keep balancing up. The balancing act is required all throughout this year and later as well. So that is something which you will have to keep working on. Mars is in its own sign of Scorpio in the 11th house as we begin this year. So this also gives you a jump start towards being ambitious, towards realizing your goals, material goals as such. So you begin this year like this, charged up with what you want to do, with the Lagnesh in the Lagna being supportive of what you're doing. So Focus a lot on your work. That is something which I would definitely advise you to. But at the same point in time, a lot of focus will go towards your domestic issues. Some of you will be redoing their houses, changing houses, renovating their space, buying a new house. So a lot of your energy, your financial resources will go towards the domestic front as we go through this year. The goals which you set for yourself this year, learn to focus on those goals. That is something which is very important for you, for the Capricorn ascendant, as this year goes by. So I move on to the next sign of Aquarius. For Aquarius, if you see, the year begins with Jupiter in the Lagna, just come in 2 months back. We have Saturn also in the 12th house. Saturn will also come to the Lagna, so we'll see a Jupiter and Saturn conjunction in your Lagna. A very, very important conjunction for any sign as such. Then we have Rahu and Ketu shifting energies. Rahu leaves the 4th house, moves to the 3rd. Ketu leaves the 10th house, comes to the 9th house. There'll be a lot of focus on new initiatives. What are you planning to do? What are you planning for the future is something which you'll focus a lot. You'll plan a lot. This year is especially the first half of the year, you'll plan your initiatives for the coming year. So dedicate your time over there, take in a lot of inputs, take in a lot of advice from your father figure, from your gurus, your teachers, your seniors. Make a connect over there as we go on in this year. Those of you who are professionally employed, or those of you who are in the services sector as such, you will see a lot of energy, you will see a lot of growth happening in your field. So if you are employed as a medical professional, you are in the defense, you are in the administrative service as such, you see a lot of energy there. You see some growth over here coming through this year as we go on. So, but as the year progresses, with the Rahu and Ketu energies shifting into the 3rd and the 9th house, there could be some worry on account of your father. You'll need to pay a lot of your time and attention towards your father, towards your siblings. A lot of attention between your house front and your focus on connecting outside, connecting towards opportunities abroad. So a lot of you will focus on this question of whether to stay here or to go outside, whether to stick along to your current circumstances or make a huge leap. So overall, if we see the year in a snapshot, you will be focusing a lot on your work matters, but at the same point in time, a lot of your past energies, a lot of your current situations will also keep pulling you behind. So take a call on how you want to go about things. The Saturn, the ascendant lord coming into the 1st house will actually help you shape up your decisions as well. That is something which you'll have to decide as the year goes by. Then we move on to the next ascendant, next rising sign of Pisces. So for Pisces, if you see the year as we begin, we have the conjunction of Mercury and Saturn in the 11th house. Jupiter is in the 12th house. This year, Rahu will come to your 2nd house and Ketu goes to your 8th house. A lot of attention will go towards income matters, towards gains. The entire Artha trine will get activated, will get a huge boost with Rahu coming to the 2nd house. So your income, your gains, your wealth, savings, all these things will get a lot of focus. You'll need to pay a lot of attention towards these things. But one thing which I would advise you about is your speech, how your communication is. So how you communicate within the family is something which you'll really have to focus on, especially in the first half of the year. Then we also see a lot of you, you know, investing time and energy into matters of research, especially if you are those who are studying, who you are doing a PhD, or you're carrying out research in some subjects. This year will make you focus a lot on what kind of work are you doing, going deep into research. Ketu energy in the 8th house will actually will help you out in your research as well. A lot of you will also focus on occult, on meditative practices, spiritual practices, etc. as well. So utilize this time in growing yourself spiritually, in enhancing your spiritual self as well. Ketu in the 8th house as well as Jupiter in the 12th house, these energies will help you do so. Keep a tab on the way you are spending money though. That is something which is very, very important. So materially, your expenditure pattern has to be seen, how you're spending money, that has to be kept under check. Otherwise, work-wise, a lot of you will look at other opportunities outside your current area. So what kind of opportunities you're getting outside or outside the country as such, away from home, is something which will entice you this entire year. So you will want to move out of your comfort zone to do new things. That is something which I see a lot for the Pisces ascendant as such. Otherwise, a focus a lot on money matters, and a lot of you, depending on what kind of a dasha, antardasha you have, what is the promise of your birth chart, will also spend a lot of time within yourself, enhancing yourself as such. So that was about the 12 ascendants, the 12 signs. I'll meet you very soon in another video. Till then, take care. Goodbye.